Welcome to SUGi Talks. At SUGi, we plant biodiverse pocket forests in urban areas and restore at-risk ecosystems around the world. Our mission is to help cities build climate resilience, biodiversity, and well-being using nature-based solutions. On this podcast, we'll speak with our expert forest makers, scientists, and collaborators about reimagining the urban experience and how we can better use nature to build healthier habitats for all life. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to support more. So we are extremely honoured to have Professor Dr. Fujiwara with us. She was pivotal in the development and the pioneering of the revolutionary Miyawaki Method. Joining forces with the revered Professor Akira Miyawaki as an undergraduate student, she worked with him right up until he retired and later assumed his role. Based in Japan, Dr. Fujiwara is a vegetation scientist with greatly respected work in the field of global vegetation science and the restoration of natural forests. Today, she is a vital guardian of the Miyawaki Method. She continues to travel the world educating people about the power of Miyawaki forests and their impact on protecting and nurturing life. So good evening, Professor Dr. Fujiwara.
Konnichiwa.
Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. You are a very important voice and it's a privilege to have you on, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have a lot of questions. There's a lot to get through because you were there from the very beginning.
Yes, you have lots of questions.
I do.
Yes.
So we'll get stuck in.
Yeah, okay.
I guess the very beginning would be a good place to start. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you first met Professor Akira Miyawaki?
I became the student of Yokohama National University, Faculty of Biology. So Professor Miyawaki became just associate professor, and then later, the last year, we need to make a thesis. We need a field survey. So I select Professor Miyawaki, and studied under him.
Right.
That was 1967.
Oh.
Yes. Since then, until Professor Miyawaki retired, I worked with Miyawaki.
Wow.
It's a long time I worked.
Yeah.
And then replaced his position. I became professor and follow his teaching and...
Wow, so you were with him since the beginning of your career and education. On a personal level, what was he like as a teacher?
He is a passionate person. He identified what he want to do. Then he just go to the target. And he is very shy and lonely, but when he is with people, he very enjoy the people. So he was very serious person for the science, and he studied very seriously. Therefore, he went there, and first Japanese scientist to the Germany.
Wow.
Japanese vegetation scientist.
And his time in Germany is quite pivotal. I find it really interesting. How did he end up there? And what happened?
He wrote the scientific paper about the widow community with the professor of Tokyo University. Then Professor Dixon, that's Miyawaki's professor in Germany. He read this paper and they invited him to Germany. But when he went to Dixon Institute and he studied vegetation science, phytosociology very well, and came back to Japan that 1960s. He visited Germany maybe more than 40 times or 50 times. So Miyawaki became nature protection person. And then 1970s, Miyawaki became the restoration of the forest. And also basement idea is field work. He's he studied Japanese archipelago, every vegetation in Japanese archipelago 10 years. Miyawaki doesn't stop anything every year to go to field. And then he developed this restoration Miyawaki method, and he continued to the retirement. So after retirement, just he focused creation of Miyawaki forests.
Okay, so that's the rough timeline there. So this podcast is all about speaking to experts like yourself and educating people about reimagining urban life through integrating nature back into cities. And we speak a lot about the power of the Miyawaki methods as such a wonderful tool to help cities rapidly build climate resilience, well-being and biodiversity.
Yes.
So we would love to hear from you in your own words what the Miyawaki method is.
Yeah. So the most important thing is using the species from the native forest, stable forest. So canopy forest species, using this species very important because Miyawaki theory say the canopy species, like president and the management of people of the top layer, they decide the target of the company. So this is the same with a natural forest. Canopy tree stable, then understory and the shrub story, they are very healthy. So therefore we use stable natural forest species, one. And the second one is dense plantation, mixed plantation, random plantation. So plant has a competition to get the light for photosynthesis. Therefore, dense plantation, then they can grow up faster, even climax species. The climax species cannot grow so fast. That is common sense. But sometimes climax species grew 1 meter per year. I surprised and I asked two professors why climax species can grow so fast. Nobody answered. So I surveyed their planted area by Miyawaki method. So I found, so climax species can tolerate under shade. But when under the sunshine, they have the competition and they can grow faster. So that's the second one. And the third one is soil preparation. When we plant, we need forest soil. So first stage, always Miyawaki taking the surface soil from their developing areas. These topsoil, we can't get this easily. These topsoil, nutrient or dead leaves. So soil preparation on the planting site. Then we plant on the prepared soil. So then he developed mulching method. When we get in the forest, dead leaves just cover the forest floors. So therefore, when planted the saplings, then covered that area with rice straw. Then this rice straw will become the food of the animals. Then soil becomes rich. Therefore, this mulching is very important. And also stop the evaporation and keeping moisture, and also stop the erosion. So this is four basic idea is Miyawaki method. But more important thing recently. So Miyawaki gathered company people and local people or students, children, plant together That is very important education, environment education. So these are special characteristic of Miyawaki method. But people don't understand that natural forest. Therefore, dense plantation, random plantation, only people understand that, and this kind of the plantation, so-called Miyawaki method.
Mm-hmm. This idea of engaging the community when creating Miyawaki forest, this is really fundamental to what we do at SUGi and what Miyawaki has taught. Why was it so important for him to engage the community?
So local people, they don't have knowledge, then they are against forest because forest making shade and dropping leaves. So when the local people standing of the plantation area attending this plantation ceremony or plantation event, so they understand, so they making the forest themselves. And also they can see the growing forest and how environment changing. When you plant the seedlings, then after 5 years, 3 years, so 5 years, you come back that there, you will get impressed very deeply.
Wow. I think it's so innovative that he built education into the methodology right from the get-go. And it's revolutionary, not only because these forests grow extremely fast, but it also tackles the psychological barriers. So he knew we needed these forests, but he also knew that we needed to shift our attitudes towards them.
Yes.
So I know you travelled Europe with Miyawaki as he gave talks on potential natural vegetation theory. But what was the shift that happened that made him go from nature protectionist to want to restore natural forests? There was a bit of a shift there.
So when we came back from the Europe, it is beginning of the environmental crisis because 1960s, it was destroying nature of Japanese archipelago, of developing highway, airport, and factories and residence areas. So that time, Miyawaki was a nature protectionist. He say everything protect the nature. But the 1970s already, natural forest is gone. Then Miyawaki changed the mind. So we need to restore the forest, natural forest especially. Then he was developing Miyawaki method.
Mm-hmm. So this industrial change in Japan, it worried Professor Akira Miyawaki enough that he wanted to use natural forests as an intervention to mitigate the impact. At the time, what was happening? Was there widespread concern?
Yeah. So 1960s, Japanese archipelago was developed everywhere, especially that time, 1970s, we had much pollution time. So everywhere is smoke, and people fell down, and ground students fell down. Such kind of pollution very hard, and also government made their duty of the stop the sulfuriation and also smoke, but only that doesn't work. Then Miyawaki thought, okay, turning of the factories. So people should restore the forest, and the forest absorb that is air and this pollution, everything. That's the first idea.
So I also read about the Nippon Steel project, which I know was really important for the early development of the methodology. He was commissioned by the steelmaking giant in order to build natural forests around their factories to mitigate pollution and to bring biodiversity. Can you tell us how that project came about and how early on was it? What came of it?
The first steel plantation area was Nippon Steel Company. That forest 50 years now. Nippon Steel Company, the biggest company in Japan. So Oita division had very large areas, degraded area. So then, Nippon Steel Company, and especially environment office, visited Miyawaki and what do we do here, this degraded area? So some people say making a bamboo forest. Some people say plant Japanese cedar. So what do you think, Professor Miyawaki? They asked him. Then Miyawaki said, so stable forest is very important. Stable forest can absorb everything and also hold biodiversity. So therefore, so you restore the natural forest in this very wide degraded area. So then Nippon Steel Company had many branches in Japanese archipelago. We studied from Kyushu to Hokkaido. We identified the potential natural forest in areas and gave the species. And they made the potted seedling themselves and also bought from the nursery and they planted. Nowadays, this forest is amazing forest.
I bet. So this Nippon Steel forest, this was a landmark project for the Miyawaki method.
Yes.
What was the impact of this forest?
Later, so after Miyawaki retired, I visited Nippon Steel Company and we surveyed the forest. So how much they can absorb the dust and how they grow up very much. So top layer doesn't have so much dust, but the middle layers. So this dust coming down to the forest, middle area, it has lots of dust. So these forest absorb the dust and the temperature. We survey the temperature outside and inside and ground side also. So their differences are very big. So outside and the inside forest in the summer, 6 Celsius different.
6 degrees.
Yeah.
Wow.
We improved that too.
Yeah, this cooling aspect is something that's really important to us at SUGi because we plant in cities and urban areas, especially nature-deprived areas. And I think it's important to mention just for listeners that these forests are maintenance-free after 2 to 3 years, and they grow extremely rapidly in comparison to conventional man-made forests. I also wanted to talk about what Miyawaki learned when he was in Germany and how he was influenced by some of the forests built there, especially post-World War II. So can you talk a little bit about what he saw there?
Yes. So when Berlin, after war, so Berlin people made the mound just middle of the town and the surrounding area developed to the residence areas and they plant natural species in the mound and also developing the parks and developing the factories there. So this kind of natural forest, it's a urban, so original forest.
Okay, so they took rubble from World War II and built a mound out of the rubble and then built a forest on top of the mound.
Yeah.
And I know this is a concept that he used for the seawall, which would be built out of rubble from the tsunami and with the forest on top to help protect people against the tsunami. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about the native forests. Like, what happened to them? You mentioned in Japan they were almost all wiped out. Why is that?
Japanese people are very serious, and especially forestry people. They wanted the forest for the people. Therefore, people chose pine, Japanese cedar, and Kamechi Paris, this kind of useful trees to plant everywhere. So, and protect them. People say Japanese 75% is forest in Japan, but natural forest will be only 10% of 75%. Others are plantation areas or secondary forest to use charcoal or firewood. But later, people became older and older. No people manage this kind of planted forest. And only monotonous plantation. So understory, nothing. Therefore, these forests is the cause of the disasters like landsliding by earthquake.
Mm-hmm. Why was monoculture forest building popular back then? Why did they favor that over a diverse, stable forest?
Forestry people thinking same size and straight trees, they are good boys. And big tree with small trees and randomly, it is a very bad forest. That's a common sense of the forestry people. Therefore, forestry people plant seedling of cedars, conifers, about 2 meter or 2 meter to 3 meter intervals, and take care each individuals. Therefore, it takes very much time. And also thinning, when it grow up to the 10 meters, then thinner individual cut down and give the light inside, and also cut the branches and making a straight trees. So so these forests need management forever until they sell it. But Miyawaki forest is just 3 years management. So then dense plantation, 3 years just weeding, using weeding. Then weeding, then no competition with weed and seedlings. So they can make a photosynthesis and then they can grow up. So 3 years, 2 to 3 meters. And it is bushes, everything covered. But after 10 years, they become thinning themselves. And also some species, some individual can grow straight and tall. Some species wait under the shade. Some species same age, but some species still stop as shrub layers. So mixture, forestry people say it is not a good forest. After 20 years, they recognize, okay, this is a forest.
Okay, so there was some conflicting ideas. Was there any resistance towards the Miyawaki methods, and what was it, and where did it come from?
Yeah, two resistances. So forestry people wanted just a good boys forest, same size and very straight, and you can see the other side, not to inside the bushes. And so therefore, when Miyawaki plant, it has lots of the cost for the plantation, lots of seedlings, and making also preparation of soil condition. So this is one reason. And the second reason is because Miyawaki always criticized forestry people. So monotonous forest so doesn't protect people and people life, human life. So that's Miyawaki always criticized monotonous forest. That's forestry people against Miyawaki. And the second criticize is so landscape people say Miyawaki forest doesn't have the nice flowers or nice view, just forest there. So therefore, it is not good. So landscape people against Miyawaki method too.
Okay. I do find it so interesting that Professor Akira Miyawaki was so focused on using natural forests, native forests, as an intervention to help protect and nurture human life. And this was always part of his primary goal. So it's interesting to hear the kind of different resistance towards the method. I read about the failure of Japan's coastal pine forests that were built in order to protect people against a tsunami, but they were, in fact, many of them were wiped away by the force of the tsunami. Can you talk a little bit about what you saw during your field survey after the tsunami?
After tsunami time, I think 1 month later, I studied that area. So then monotonous plantation, like a pine plantation area, everything died. So pine cannot register the tsunami. Tsunami has so big energy. But after 3 months, I came back to the same place and went field survey. So many species together live in the pine forest. Then they could against tsunami. They didn't fall down. So this is the important thing. And also I compared with a civil engineering report. So 100 meter was tsunami, and they surveyed only no forest areas. So I compared with behind the building, behind the forest, and their data. So similar distance from the ocean to the building. No forest, then 40.5 meters tsunami effect. And behind the forest, it was 2.5 meters. And also very interesting thing was Sumitomo Corporation power station. They made the 10-meter width of the Miyawaki forest. This forest didn't destroyed. So why it's different? So they planted pine with evergreen trees, only 10 meters, and they had the video. Tsunami came to only first floor, not second floor. So this kind of forest is very important to mitigate the tsunami. Even earthquake to mitigate the earthquake. 1995, we had the earthquake in Kobe areas. It was very big. Even that area, we surveyed the burned area. So when evergreen forest area or forest patches, then behind houses behind this forest, they could do against the fire. And also some building next to big trees, they just then didn't collapse, but only became, let's say, slope, became just next trees, so people could survive. So many examples there.
Right. So the natural forests or diverse forests or wooded areas, tree areas, those were really a lot more effective in protecting life when the tsunami hit. What was the mechanism that protected people? How exactly can forests protect people?
Thick forest. So tsunami coming and come back. So thick forest can absorb the energy. Inside the tsunami has energy. So they coming that and absorb the energy. Then big tsunami became a lower tsunami. That reason, forest itself didn't stop, but mitigate, absorb tsunami. Therefore, Miyawaki's idea was making the mound. So mound is physiologically very strong for the tsunami. And with forest, it will affect very much.
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea.
Okay, so this was the Tohoku Great Forest Wall, which was designed by Miyawaki after this 2011 tsunami. And this was built to help protect people.
So we have data. So highway has a mound, and on the mound they have the highway. So they stop the tsunami. And the forest itself also mitigate the tsunami. Therefore, this combination very important.
So I also know the forests surrounding the Shinto shrines in Japan. They have been protected for a very long time, like hundreds of years. And these forests were instrumental in helping Miyawaki design the natural forests he built in Japan. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
When Professor Miyawaki came back from Germany, and he was born in Okayama Prefecture. It is a countryside, very countryside, and no natural forest in countryside. Everything plantation areas or secondary forest areas. So then he identified, maybe Shinto shrine will have the natural forest because we keep the god in behind of the Shinto shrine. So he visited the Shinto shrine next to his house. Then he found the evergreen trees there. So then, okay, we can survey Shinto shrine and find what is natural forest, what is potential natural forest there. At the beginning of the Shinto shrine. So in Japan, Second World War, so people destroyed the forest and Shinto shrine and temple forest too. But still, big Shinto shrine has a natural forest. Since 17th century or 16th century, there is a history. So recent one, prime chief of the Kusayama, he has a responsibility of the Sagami branch of Izumo Taisha Shinto shrine. Izumo Taisha is a very big Shinto shrine in the western part of Japan. This Sagami branch they don't have the forest. So he bought the land for Miyawaki. It is, I think, 3,000 million yen, very expensive, for the Miyawaki forest. And Miyawaki needed to make a forest. Now, 15 years, it became a nice forest. And also, chief priest made a small river inside. And this river became the best water in Japan. Very tasty. It is today's Shinto shrine. Only one Miyawaki Forest Shinto shrine in Japan. We have 100 years old Shinto shrine in Tokyo, Meiji Shinto shrine. And it is a landscaping people planted, very big trees. 100 years ago, people made it. Therefore, it is very big area, middle of Tokyo. But even so, this 15 years old Shinto shrine has mysterious, very much.
Mm.
Yeah, people coming, yes.
Wow, I would love to visit it someday. It sounds so beautiful. So the chief priest commissioned Miyawaki to build a forest around a Shinto shrine, and at 50 years old, it's now surpassed the growth of the Shinto shrine forest in Tokyo at 100 years. So that's pretty amazing. I would love to visit that magical river.
Yes.
I know we talked also about some variations that you've noticed in the Miyawaki method being used around the world. Can you talk a little bit about why it's important to you to protect the integrity of the Miyawaki method?
And I explained the Miyawaki method at first. That's based on the natural forest. So people don't understand the natural forest. What is natural forest in these areas? So therefore, people just gather the local species and plant. That's everything, dense and mixed plantation. So this is only technology. So we should restore the natural forest. Therefore, species selection is the most basic idea. So nowadays, they are restored forest. They don't use only natural species. So at first, understand the natural forest.
So as climate change continues, how can Miyawaki forests help us?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a Miyawaki mini forest. It likes a drop of the rain falling in the ocean, very small. But when raindrop gathered and to make the river, and also eventually it will become the ocean. So everywhere, so degraded urban areas and degraded countryside. So when we restore the natural forest, then it will help the global warming too. That's important key.
And what about cities? How can they help us in cities particularly?
So yeah, Tokyo has lots of the green areas. People enjoy that. And also building have the green cover too. When there is a forest, then people can stay cooling side very much. And the residence areas. One of the master students studied in our Yokohama National University campus. He studied the temperature in the campus forest area and the surrounding residence areas. In summer, annual temperature, maximum temperature is 3 Celsius lower than residence area. And in winter, 3 Celsius higher than residence areas. That case, we need this kind of the green corridor, Miyawaki patches.
What would you like to see happen in the future regarding the Miyawaki methods?
If we have the chance, I like to gather the people together and study in the field and also explain why we need Miyawaki forest like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, long live the Miyawaki method.
Yes.
And I have every faith that it will continue to inspire and protect and nurture life all around the world. So before we end, what is one thing nature has taught you?
Stable natural forest is very charming. Even evergreen forest, it's just very mysterious and very cool and gives the inspired very much.
So thank you so much for talking to us, Professor Dr. Fujiwara.
Thank you very much.
It was a privilege to speak to you.
ありがとう。
Ciao, ciao. Bye.